Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, said Mike Tyson. Not about building a go-to-market plan, but just about life in general. And it's one of my most favorite sayings. It's actually inspired by an even older saying. It's by a Prussian military commander from the 1800s. And he said, "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." And it's a Prussian military commander named Helmuth von Moltke. No one really remembers him. Mike Tyson's really awesome, but here's the thing. No one really knows if the go-to-market plan that you have is going to be effective in the market. And sometimes you struggle with, are you gonna give up too early, or do you need to stick it out because it's the right plan, it's the right strategy that's gonna get you to that next stage of growth? The biggest thing that I've learned is if you're going to be effective in driving growth for your SaaS business, then you need to hook into a proper framework and you need to have a proper go-to-market strategy. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the 8 essential elements of a killer and unstoppable go-to-market strategy. And when you implement these 8 items in the checklist I'm about to give you, it is going to ensure that you have the right go-to-market plan in place and you have checks in place to ensure that you're set up for success to scale and get to that next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS business faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So if you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of my SaaS go-to-market coaching programs, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was sending out an email to my mailing list, and I just asked founders that are on the mailing list, hey, what are you struggling with? What's top of mind for me? And I got some crazy responses. One person responded, look, we've sent out 15,000 emails and we're getting a lot of views, but no one's responding. Another founder was confiding in me and he said, look, I've been paying a demand generation agency for nearly 8 months now. And I keep getting these reports about how we're getting all these views and all these likes, but there's been no revenue that's come out of it at all. And I'm just spending money every month with these guys. I had another founder that told me almost with tears that he hired a fractional CMO. And he's been working with this fractional CMO, who's, by the way, never had an actual CMO job. And now he has this amazing and fancy MarTech stack. So I asked him, well, how many leads have you generated and how much revenue have you gotten out of it? And he said, none. I fired him. This is one of the things that's very real in the market where people think they have a go-to-market strategy and then they start executing, or they hire people that claim to know what to do. And then founders 12 months later, 18 months later are left with nothing. They don't have leads, they don't have pipeline, they don't have growth, and they have lost 12 months of runway. Now they're not even smarter from it. They're like, well, what do we do differently? And how do we actually fix this? This is something that even I faced when I was building out my last company, ToutApp, where I was stumbling through building out my go-to-market strategy, and every corner, I was like, are we doing this right? Are we giving up too early? Do we keep going? Do we wait? Or are we losing? So I learned the hard way that in order to actually be effective in driving growth for your SaaS business, you need a proper go-to-market strategy. You need to execute, but you also need a proper framework to make sure you have the right pieces in there so you're set up for success and so you're able to iterate. So in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the 8 essential elements of a killer and unstoppable go-to-market strategy. And if you watch till the end, this is my 6th year running this channel. I've coached hundreds of founders. I've seen founders that have been successful. And so I'm going to give you 2 bonus principles that you can follow that I've observed the most successful founders adopt in addition to these 8 essential elements. So if you're excited to dig in, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. And let's dig right into it. So principle number 1, an essential element number 1 for your go-to-market strategy is your ideal customer profile. Now, Everyone knows at this point that you need an ideal customer profile. The question really is, do you have a paper, napkin, crayon drawing of an ideal customer profile? Or do you truly have a real ideal customer profile written and defined that really articulates where your next stage of growth is going to come from? A lot of times when I'm working with founders, just like they claim they have a go-to-market plan, but it's not quite working, they claim they have an ideal customer profile, but then they see how I do it. I follow a 29-point process, and they are like, oh my God, we never really had an ideal customer profile. It's not your fault. I learned this the hard way too. When I first started out, I kind of confused my total addressable market, which is the total market I can go after for my company, with my ideal customer profile. And the biggest thing is you got to first understand that you may have a really huge multi-billion-dollar market you're going after, but you really want to whittle down on what segment of the market you're going to be targeting for this next stage of growth, and really writing down what your ideal customer profile looks like, because it really influences everything else you're going to do in your go-to-market strategy and your go-to-market execution. One of the toughest things about an ideal customer profile is making the tough choices. Every single time I'm coaching a founder on their ideal customer profile, they eventually come to me and say, like, TK, it's really tough to make a decision. We either go this way or this way. And we both know that going both ways, we just don't have the resources for it. So those tough decisions need to be made. And that's where we talk about the nuances around what are the tough choices, which direction do we go? And that's why founders that actually write down an ideal customer profile in the right way are more successful in the long run. So the first piece of your checklist is to truly and wholeheartedly do a proper ideal customer profile. Once you've built out your ideal customer profile, then comes the second piece. And the second piece is your value proposition. Now, when you are running your go-to-market plays, you may be sending cold emails. You may be hiring a demand gen agency. Hopefully, you're not going to hire that fractional CMO that never had an actual CMO job because they can't do anything for you. Maybe you'll be running some ads. Maybe you'll be doing some SEO. But in any one of those cases, ultimately, you're going to have to present to your ideal customers what you guys do. You'll have to say like, hey, we are a sales engagement tool and we help you generate more pipeline. Or we are an AI first landing page tool and we help you generate more leads. Or we are a customer referral tool. We get your happy customers to refer you to your future customers. These are all examples of value propositions. And in every touch point of your go-to-market motion, that value proposition is going to appear. A lot of times, founders don't sit down and truly clarify what their value proposition is. And therefore, a whole bunch of different words come through. The way I know that you haven't really thought about your value proposition is if I were to pull up your website, and this happens a lot of times on calls, I'll be on a call with a founder. I'm like, oh, I have your website up. And immediately they'll say, oh, we're changing it. And it's true, like everyone's changing it. I've been guilty of this as well. But usually it's indicative of the fact that we haven't truly thought about what our value proposition is. And a lot of times, if you need an entire page to really explain, I've met founders like, TK, I really need to explain to you what we do. I'm like, I'm really sorry. Maybe I'll give you the time to spend an hour to understand what you guys really do. But if you can't explain to me in one sentence what you do and why you're different, how you're uniquely differentiated in the market, and what problem you solve and why I should care, then you don't stand a chance by the time you start executing on your go-to-market motions. So your value proposition is a core piece that you really want to flesh out and think through and talk through and define and test before you start to really scale out your go-to-market. The third piece, the third item in the checklist that you really want to define for your killer and unstoppable go-to-market strategy is your manifesto. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, I've mentioned a manifesto a number of times. A manifesto is a document. It's your strategic narrative. It's how you really tell the story of what you guys do, why you're different in the market, how you differentiate yourself, and why customers should act now in going with your product. And another way to think about this is it's your strategic narrative. And sometimes marketers will also call it broadly your messaging. The value prop is your one sentence articulation of what you guys do. The manifesto is your strategic narrative. It's a story you tell to the market to really differentiate yourself and get customers to trust you and start to take action with you. When you do a proper manifesto, and a manifesto is a very complex piece that you do, and if you do it right, then everything else starts to become a lot clearer, which is why it's an essential piece of your go-to-market strategy. When you do this right, there's a few things that start to become easier. First, you can turn the manifesto into a lead magnet that helps you generate leads. You can offer this as a guide. Second, your website becomes a lot clearer. You'll know exactly what to put in that hero section, what the core benefits are, what the transformation is. All those pieces start to become a lot clearer. You can use it as part of your pitch deck if you're raising money. And you can also use it as your sales deck if you happen to be sales driven. All of these pieces start to become a lot clearer because you spend the time to really define what is our unique story, what is our message, what is our manifesto. Because let's be real, you started a company for a very good reason. You started a company because you knew you wanted to bring a change to the world for a specific group of people. You wanted to solve a problem for them. And your product uniquely solves for that. The reality is your customers are being inundated by other vendors that are promising similar things. So you have to tell your story. You have to communicate why you're different. You have to create the urgency and build that trust. And the way you do that, the way you get the words to be able to do that for everything else that you do when you execute is by crafting a proper manifesto. These three pieces I put over here because they're core elements of your go-to-market strategy. And I highlight this in green and the rest of them are going to be in blue is because what ends up happening is a lot of people jump this step and go into the execution. And that's why they spend 12 months, 18 months without getting results. When you focus on these three pieces, you are really able to think about the strategy around how you're going to go to market. And sometimes strategy is kind of an overused word. It's kind of frou-frou. Some people are like, oh, I'm a strategist. I don't do anything else. Well, to me, having coached hundreds of founders in my go-to-market program, the one thing I'll always tell them is like, listen, strategy is just making choices. That's all it is. We're making choices. We're making choices on who we're going to serve. We're making choices on the words we're going to use to get their attention. We're making choices on the offer we're going to make. That's what strategy is. A lot of folks skip that part, but if you really nail these pieces, then everything else that you do afterwards becomes a lot more effective. These three pieces are super crucial. Once you have these three pieces, you have a thesis. You have a thesis on like, this is what I think my go-to-market strategy is going to be. You don't know for sure. So the fourth item in the checklist, the fourth essential element of your go-to-market strategy is your Broadway show. Now, a Broadway show starts small and then expands over time. A lot of times I'll hear founders say, look, we're doing a bunch of stuff. We have an SEO agency, we're running ads, I'm gonna do TikToks and I'm posting on LinkedIn and I have a ghostwriter, I'm gonna write a book. And what they're doing is they're doing a lot of these different channels, but they're not getting any results in any of them. And they're scatterbrained and they're spreading their resources and they just don't have that many resources to begin with. One of the biggest things that I teach founders is when you're building out your go-to-market strategy and you're going out in the market and you're looking to scale, you want to think in terms of a Broadway show. A Broadway show, if you think about it, is a really exceptional show. If you've ever been to a Broadway show, I actually like going to the theater, they really nail it in. They know that whole thing works and then they scale it out. They scale out the marketing, they scale it out into multiple cities and they take it all over. A Broadway show for you is a consistent set of sales and marketing activities that you can run to bring your messaging to your ideal customers on a consistent basis. And the reason I have this as green is this is first to really stress test your ideal customer profile and your messaging. The thing is, you may have an ideal customer profile. Maybe we made some tough choices and you may have a value proposition. We really talked through it and whittled it down and you have a manifesto, but that's our best thesis. And now before we span it across all the different channels, you really want to test it in a focused way to make sure that this is working. And that's where we start the Broadway show as part of the strategy to really nail in, hey, is this going to work? Is this going to differentiate? Is this going to get the response that we want? Once you've launched your initial Broadway show, then the blue comes in. Then the go-to-market execution comes in because there's the V1 and then there's the V2 and then there's the V3 and then eventually you start to get into the full execution. But the reason we do it in these two phases is we first want to stress test, like, is this strategy good? Is this resonating? And if it is, then we can start to scale it out. This is where a lot of founders go wrong. What they do is they just turn on the execution. They'll hire an agency. And of course, when you hire an agency, they'll give you this 12-page document to answer a bunch of these questions. And you answer them to the best of your abilities, but you haven't really done the strategy work. And then they go and execute on it. And then you wonder why you didn't get the results because you haven't really thought through the choices you made on that 12-page document. So the way we always approach it is we kick off a Broadway show to really test, is this go-to-market strategy legit? And if it is, then we can keep following the rest of the items on the checklist. Before I go to step number 5 and principle number 5, let me pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this? Now, some of you are gonna be like, oh my God, we have wasted so much time because we actually didn't do this work, but we're executing and we're spending money on it and time on it. Some of you might be like, oh, we did this, but it's not yielding results. So maybe we did it wrong. And some of you might be like, oh my God, I've done nothing yet. Maybe I'm just about to launch my product and I got to do all this stuff. I thought I was ready to just like start posting online. This is why I create videos like this, because I've been in the SaaS industry, in the B2B industry for 20 years. I've coached hundreds of founders, so I know where founders go wrong. And the reason I've been able to serve founders in the first place is my 6th year doing this is because I'm a founder and I've made the same mistakes. So just know that if you're having a bunch of aha moments and a bunch of epiphanies, you're not alone. And the reason I can speak to you is because I've literally been in your shoes. I'm in the trenches with you and I've coached founders that are in the same position as you. So you're starting to get a bunch of aha moments. You're starting to get value. You're starting to see the power in building out a go-to-market strategy before you start executing. Can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. And honestly, so do we. We put a lot of love into these videos. Also, if you're in this stage where you're building out your go-to-market strategy, you're building a go-to-market machine, you're looking to scale, and you want to make sure that you reduce the execution risk. You want to make sure that you have step-by-step instructions on how to implement all of this. And you'd like to work with me to actually execute all these pieces, then I encourage you to check out my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. I'll link to it below. You don't have to go anywhere right now because I have all of these rest of the steps for you that I want to walk you through. I have these bonus ones from having coached hundreds of founders. So you don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this episode, but I'll link to it below and you should definitely check that out. Hopefully you smash that like button if you're still watching, which obviously you are. So make sure you smash that like button. If you've had some aha moments, put in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. Let's go to step number 5, principle number 5. Now, once you've launched your Broadway show, you're basically going to get a bunch of data. And I'll talk a little bit more about this by the time we go to number 8, because we'll really talk about how the data pieces come together. But based on this data, let's just say everything starts to work. Well, in that case, now it's time to really scale it out. If it's not working, then it means that you have to iterate on this. And either way, it's fine because now you know you're not going to waste 12 to 18 months. Let's just say it's starting to work and you're like, TK, this is crushing it. Like, we're getting leads. These are the right customers. We can close them. This is awesome. They're starting trials or they're booking demos and we're winning deals. Like, that's good. We want more. We want to 10x this. So that's where step number 5 comes in. Step number 5, and this is really now getting into go-to-market execution and scaling, which probably all of you are really here for. Step number 5 is channel mastery. And I'll explain what that is. Channel mastery and scaling is what comes once you know that, hey, I really know my ICP, my ideal customer profile, my messaging is really resonating, and I want to reach as much of my ICP as possible. Now, remember I said what you don't want to be is scatterbrain. You don't want to be opening up LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and SEO and ads and events. Like, you don't want to do 50 billion things because you're just going to be scatterbrain, and chances are you just don't have the resources or the stamina to do all of that. So what you really want to do is in your initial Broadway show, you want to pick one channel that's best where your ICP hangs out. Maybe it's LinkedIn, maybe it's Twitter, and you really want to test your messaging and see if you can generate leads and pipeline. If it's working, then you have to say, cool, how do I become a master in my first channel? How do I like just crush it? Because the thing is, every channel has nuances on how to win in it. There's certain ways to win in LinkedIn. There's certain ways to win in Twitter. There's certain ways to win in TikTok or Google or SEO or ads. Whatever channel you choose, you have to achieve channel mastery. So if you've got that one channel that's working for you, what you really want to figure out is, how do I really master this one channel where it's working and my ICP is hanging out and they're engaging with me because my messaging is working, and how do I scale that out? Once you've done that, then you can start to think about, what are the other channels that I really want to be going after where my ICP hangs out? And you can ask yourself, like, am I going to master that, or do I just hire someone to master that because because now I have more resources and I know exactly what my strategy is, so I can influence them and guide them on exactly how to execute given their expertise. So step number 5, you'll notice, comes way after. A lot of people start with step number 5, which is the crazy piece, and they wonder why they wasted 12 months or 18 months. A lot of times people hire people to execute on step number 5, and they'll give you a 12-page document and you'll try to answer it, but you don't really know what you're doing and they don't know what they're doing. And so it's the blind leading the blind, and that's why we have so many companies that fail to get distribution. So step number 5, once you know your messaging is working and your ideal customer profile is legit, all that is working, then how do I achieve channel mastery in the first channel? And what are the other channels I can turn on to really scale the volume and reach and consistently get my message to my ICP on a consistent basis by scaling the Broadway show? And that's step number 5. Step number 6 is your methodology. And methodology is, I like the word methodology, mainly because I'm a nerd with this stuff. Another way to think about it is your playbooks. The thing is, once you do all these pieces, you have your go-to-market strategy, you do your Broadway show, you start to really master the channel, you're gonna get more leads and you're gonna get more pipeline. But a lot of times, leads doesn't mean revenue, or likes doesn't mean actual leads. So you need a proper methodology. There's gonna be a couple of these. You need a proper marketing methodology, meaning how do we make our message reach our target customers and how do we turn them into leads? That's a marketing methodology or a marketing playbook that you'll need. Once you get leads, this is where a lot of founders get stuck. They'll hire an agency and they're like, here's all the leads. And you're like, cool, but none of them are converting to revenue. And I'm pretty sure these are all bots. These don't look like real people. We can't even find them on LinkedIn. So you need a proper sales methodology also on how do we convert leads to real pipeline and demos and revenue. If you're product led, well, in that case, you need a product led methodology on how do we convert a lead to an actual trial, and what does the new user experience look like, and what does the nurture sequence look like so we can convert them to revenue. Let's just say you're winning customers. Well, because we're recurring revenue businesses, you need a proper customer success methodology, because if you can't get them to stay and keep using and actually buy more over time, then you don't have a real business. Each of these pieces are methodologies or playbooks you have to put into place so that you can convert all this attention you're getting in your go-to-market strategy to real revenues and repeatable revenues and recurring revenues and expanding revenues. So each of these pillars, each of these playbooks you'll have to implement. You can't quite wing it. The thing is, sales, marketing, these are all just words to us at some point. But the thing is, there's real depth of knowledge required for each of these. And if you're a founder, well, you can't quite go out there unless you're at 10 million ARR or 6 million ARR. You can't quite go out there and even recruit a great VP of sales or a VP of marketing to figure all this out for you. It's kind of on you. You have to get dangerous enough in knowing, well, what should my marketing methodology be? What should my sales methodology be? What should my customer success methodology be? So you can get to that critical mass of revenue. And I've seen this over and over. One of the coolest parts for founders that have worked with me is, they'll start with a little bit of revenue, then they'll get to 500K, then they'll get to $1 million, then they'll get to 3 million. And the thing is, I send out trophies to them every single time they hit these revenue milestones. In fact, here's a couple of pictures of them. It's really cool. But the coolest part is the reason they got there is because they embraced this whole framework and they embraced founder-led go-to-market. And they're like, okay, I need to get dangerous enough in each of these pieces so I hit that critical mass of revenue. Then I'm able to recruit really great people. And then they are able to recruit them and then they scale it out from there. You have to know that there's a methodology that you need for each of these pieces. Otherwise, all this attention you're getting is not going to convert to real revenue. And that's what's super important at this stage. Number 7 is one of my favorites. Number 7 is success stories. And people forget this. Number 7 is success stories. As you start to get your go-to-market strategy straight, as you start to get initial deals, as you start to scale some of the channels, as you start to really convert them to revenue, you're gonna get customers, which is awesome. And you're gonna get more and more customers. And if you're watching this and you're like, TK, I'm already at like 3 million and I wanna get to 10. I work with founders upwards of 100 million in revenue. So you already have a bunch of success stories. And what I find, it's crazy to me, is a lot of times founders forget to take the successful customers, record their success stories, and share them with the rest of the market. And so my favorite step at this point is you should go to your best customers and just record them. Like, in fact, in this channel, I have a whole bunch of case studies and success stories with founders that have worked with me over the years, especially if they received a trophy. They definitely have done a success story. And so success stories are really powerful because at that point, you achieve a different level of swagger in the market. You're gonna have your messaging. You're gonna educate your customers. You're gonna get leads. You're gonna have your sales calls. But you're not just gonna say, trust me, I'm awesome. You're gonna say, listen, you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at all these success stories that we have. And oh my God, it's a complete game changer for your go-to-market strategy and your go-to-market machine. So number 7, it's so important. I gave it its own spot. You gotta have customer success stories. You wanna capture them. They don't have to be crazy, overproduced. It could just be a Zoom call that you take a recording and just have them share the success they've had using your product and just share it with the rest of the market and make it part of the rest of your go-to-market strategy. And it's like super powerful. Now, once you have that piece, by this time you have a go-to-market strategy that's working. You have the initial Broadway show to really test it and you captured the data. And then you got into the execution. You're like, hey, this is working. How do we scale this out? How do we get multiple channels? How do we establish the methodology so we don't just get a bunch of leads? We actually get revenue out of this. We have our marketing methodology. We have our sales methodology. We have our customer success methodology. And then you have success stories, right? Like on the other end, and you take those and deploy that back in and just 10x's everything else that's going on because people trust people and they're not just going to listen to your message, they're going to listen to your customers' messages, and that is a complete game changer. Then comes number 8. And number 8 is the thing that is probably the second most important thing in this checklist. The most important thing is your ideal customer profile. You get your ideal customer profile right, everything else is a lot easier. You get it wrong, everything else is a lot harder. So markets, this is something that second-time founders know really well. Markets are more important than product or teams or any of that. If you're in a great market, then you're just gonna do better. It's just gonna be easier. So ICP is the number 1 most important thing. The second most important thing is number 8, because these two are like the underpinnings to making this whole thing work. It's math. I debated what to call this one. In the past, when I've done a version of this video, I debated like, what do I call this? I could have called it data. I alluded to data over here, but I call it math. The thing is, what you're really looking to do here is you're really building a sophisticated, scalable go-to-market machine. Machines have components. They have the ICP, in this case, the value prop, the messaging, you have the channel you're going after, you have methodologies. These machines are all governed by math. That's what makes for an effective machine. And so you really want to understand the math. A lot of times people just don't do the math. So there's 2 pieces of math that I always get founders to think about. The first one is the macro, the second one is the micro. Let's talk about the macro first. Macro is like your overall math. The overall math is one of the things I always get founders to do when they work with me is, all right, cool, what's our revenue target for the year? Just for the year. I know everyone wants to be $1 billion company, but for the year. And so they'll say, okay, I want to do $1 million of net new business. I'm like, cool. Then I'll say, okay, for $1 million, what's your average deal size? Well, they'll say, cool, my average deal size is $100K. I'm like, all right, great. So if they're doing $1 million, so that's $1 million, and their average deal size is $100K, so that's $100,000. So that means they need 10 customers. Okay, cool, that's awesome. Now, if they need 10 customers, let's just say they're sales driven at 100K, they're gonna talk to sales. You can't like swipe a credit card on that. In order to get 10 deals, an average sales methodology, sales process has like a 20% win rate, conservatively speaking. So that means that in order to get 10 customers on a 20% win rate, they need 50 opportunities. Okay, so that's 50 opportunities that they need and they'll get $1 million of new business. They'll work their sales methodology. Cool. In order to get an opportunity, you first need to get leads. And the thing is, not every lead will become an opportunity. Rule of thumb, 10% of your leads will actually become an opportunity. So you divide that by 10%. So in order to get 50 opportunities in the course of a year, you need 500 leads. Okay, now we're talking. We need to get 500 leads. If we get 500 leads, then 10% of them will turn into opportunities. And we feel good about our sales methodology. So we're going to convert 50 of those. Out of those 50, we're going to convert 10 of them to actual customers, and we get our $1 million. That's your macro math. And a lot of times founders, they just don't do the math. And don't beat yourself up over it. I'm not here to beat you up over it. Sometimes I didn't do the math. But when you do the math, it's like, okay, cool. That means I need 500 leads. How do I get 500 leads? All of a sudden, it becomes a lot clearer on what you need to do and what your targets are and what connectivity that you need to put in. And even like who do you need to hire so you can get some help because you can only do so much on your own. So that's the macro math. Well, there's some micro math here also. Remember in this Broadway show, I said there's a V1, V2, V3. And I've done this enough times with founders where we get them to their first version of their manifesto and start testing it in the market as quickly as possible, typically within 3 weeks. And then we teach them what data to collect so that we can figure out, is it working, is it not? Do we scale or do we need to iterate? And that's part of the ways we make sure that people don't go 12 months doing the wrong thing. So that's the micro math. Little things like you should have a 20% conversion rate on your landing page for your lead magnet. You should have a 10% lead to opportunity. You should have a 20% win rate. This is the micro math as part of your machine. And one of the things that you want to be doing is you want to be collecting some of this data. When I work with founders, I'm like, here's a template, just plug in this data, hire a VA if you want to, they can plug in the data, but we got to look at the data because that'll tell us, is this going in the right direction or is it not? Math is the thing that'll help you scale. If you truly want to scale, you want to get to this kind of level. Well, these are small numbers compared to some of the founders that I support. Even if you want to get to this level, like, look, $1 million, 100K, cool, 50 opportunities, 10 customers, 500 leads. How do we get 500 leads? Like that will guide you in the level of focus and intensity you want to execute on. It'll help you decide on, are you on the right track or not with this micro math that you're doing. So both of these pieces are super important and you want to make sure you do the math. And hopefully you start to see why this is the second most important thing. If ICP is the number one most important thing, math is the second most important. Both of these go hand in hand. It really underpins everything else. The ICP will help you focus on the right segment of the planet, the world, our reality. And these pieces will be built on top of that. And the math will help you determine if all these pieces are aligned in the right way and you're actually getting scale, you're getting revenues or not, and what you need to tweak versus just guessing on is this working or is it not? Like you'll know exactly what to do. Okay, cool. Those are the 8 essential elements to a killer and unstoppable go-to-market strategy. Now, I promised you 2 bonus ones. And so if you're still watching, well, definitely gonna give you the bonus ones now. By the way, if you're getting value from this, which hopefully you are, like I've been going for a little while, so thank you for watching to this point. Like, I hope you're getting value. If you're getting value, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm and just put something in the comments on what you learned so far, the value you've gotten. I just love hearing from you guys. Like, it means the world to me. I check these comments like crazy, believe it or not. I love hearing from you guys. So please put in the comments what you've learned so far. These 2 bonus ones, I learned, this stuff I learned from the best go-to-market people out there that I work with. And I implemented and I learned it and then I taught it to more founders and they achieved success, which is why I gave them the trophies and we have the success stories when I work with them in my go-to-market program. But these 2, I have the privilege and the benefit of seeing patterns because I work with so many founders. And I started to see some patterns on what the founders that were the most successful were doing. And I started to notice some patterns around, like these are 2 additional things that people should be doing. I wanna highlight those 2. So bonus number 1 element that you wanna be thinking about to add to your killer unstoppable go-to-market strategy, I'm gonna put these, let's pick another color for this. We're gonna put these in purple, okay? You should definitely do these first and then you wanna look at the bonus ones and they all connect, right? The bonus number 1, I have 2 for you, is pricing. Pricing, the best founders that I work with thought obsessively about pricing. And I worked with them on their pricing. Now I have a whole framework on how to think about pricing. But I learned about pricing the hard way. I remember at one point, my last company, ToutApp, was struggling. And so I went to my investors. I went to Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz. They were my investors. Andreessen Horowitz backed our Series B. And I said, hey, these are the things we're struggling with. And I'll never forget this. And like I was like ready. I was like with my paper, I'm like, okay, tell me what we need to know. And I was like ready for like the craziest idea. But Ben was really straightforward. And this is why one of the reasons I love Ben. He was like, it kind of sounds like you just need to raise your prices. You've got to market, like people want your product, but you're having trouble making some of these economics work. You just need to increase your prices. People will still pay because they love your product. And he was right. And I've seen this over and over. Founders that I worked with on their pricing, we increased the prices in a thoughtful way. And we thought about how to get them in at this price and increase it over time through expansion. When we put a proper pricing strategy in place, everything got better in the company. We made more money. There was more cash coming in, which meant that we were able to spend more money into the go-to-market machine. One of my most favorite sayings that I started to tune into after Ben told me about this and I learned about the power of pricing is this other saying by Dan Kennedy. And Dan Kennedy is a marketing genius, and Dan Kennedy said, the person that can spend the most to acquire a customer is the one that's gonna win in the market. And it's totally true. So if you can really revamp your pricing strategy, therefore you just have more cash per customer, and then you're able to feed that back into this scalable go-to-market machine, you're just gonna be able to get more customers. And you're gonna be fine because you have the sales methodology in place and the marketing methodology and the customer success methodology to make that LTV go up. And therefore you have a really healthy business, but you're gonna outpace your competition because you can spend more on acquiring customers. And one of the keys to that is to really get your pricing strategy down. So that's my bonus tip number 1. I saw the founders that have been super successful always just think about pricing and think about the principles around pricing and how to really nail their pricing strategy. And a lot of times it's scary to increase your prices, but I've seen this over and over. Whenever founders increase their prices thoughtfully, they made more money. customers valued you more. Pricing is one of the ways you communicate value. People judge you on how much you cost. So if you're like $9 a month, they're gonna think you're a cheap product. If you're $99 a month, they're gonna think, well, this is like a substantial product. They may think twice before buying, but they're gonna stick around longer. And what we've seen is when you actually think about pricing in a thoughtful way, you actually sell more. Win rates go up. You beat the competition more. So it's super powerful. So that's bonus number one. And bonus number two, this one, I always struggled with this and then I had to like really get great at it. Bonus number two is leverage. And the cheat code on this is asking who. So as a founder, there's a million things you need to be doing. A lot of times I have to coach founders on like, hey, how do you just get enough done in a day and not burn out and all those pieces? But we all have to be doing a billion different things. And I know you're staring at this list and you're like, TK, I need to grow my company. I also need to do these 50 other things. And now I got to follow these 8 checklists to really make sure we're effective. And you got these 2 bonus ones. Like, where am I going to get the time? Like, how is this going to work? And I get it. Like, we have a lot to do. And the biggest thing I was trained on is to ask myself who versus what. Where do I get leverage? How do I get leverage in what I need to be doing? There are certain things that I can't just go pay someone to do. Depending on your stage, you may not be able to recruit a great VP of marketing or VP of sales. You may even have like, maybe you raise $10 million, right? But that doesn't mean you'll really be able to recruit a great VP of marketing. Not all of them are that great. So there's these limiting factors. And a lot of times the truth is, and you know this, and I know this, is it's you. Like, it's us. Like, it's on us. We have to figure this out. So in that stage where it's like, I got to figure this out, you still don't have to do it alone. So asking, well, who can help? Who do I model? Who's already done this? Or who has the framework I can follow? Or what are the pieces that are already done for me so I can hook into it? Asking who is something that I've been trained to do by my coaches, and I train my founders to do, the founders that I coach as well. The reason that's super powerful is because it trains us to understand that, okay, we don't have to do all of it ourselves completely. We can get help, but we can get help in different ways. In the ideal case, we can hire VPs for each of these, for sales, for marketing, for customer success, and that will come. You nail these pieces, you get the growth going, you will be able to get the resources so that you can recruit and hire some of these great people. But until then, you have to figure out how to get the momentum going. And in that case, well, what are some other ways you can get leverage? Who do you need to hire? Who do you need to work with? Those are things that you can ask yourself because you don't have to go at it alone. So leverage is one of the things that the founders that I have the honor and the privilege to serve, I saw them do. They constantly ask themselves, who do I need help with? Who can help me? What do I need to model? What's the framework to follow? And quite honestly, like, it's a certain kind of founder that joins a coaching program like mine. Like, it's a certain kind of founder. It's a type of founder that's like, I don't have all the answers. I want to reduce execution risk. I don't want to make dumb mistakes. And honestly, I have a billion things to do. So if there's a framework I can just follow that'll help me get through these pieces, if I have an intellectual thought partner that'll help me think through these that has pattern recognition, like, well, sign me up. That's leverage. And the coolest part about this is once you get leverage and you get momentum and you get things moving, well, then you get even more leverage. Like, you get more resources, because the thing that is easy to forget is once you figure out your go-to-market strategy and you start executing, even on one channel, and you start to get the growth going, then you have more resources. Then you can actually go out and say, cool, how do I get even more leverage? Let's hire VPs for each of these. And it's one of the coolest things that I love seeing is when I'm scrolling through LinkedIn and I see one of the founders that I've had the honor and the privilege of serving announcing like, oh, we just raised another round. But even more so, they're announcing like, oh, we're profitable now. But even more so, they're announcing like, I just hired a VP of sales, or I hired a VP of marketing. And this is like the industry heavy hitter that we attracted because we showed them like, hey, here's what we're already doing. And I bet you can make it 10 times better. And they look at it, the quality people, and they're like, oh my God, I can totally do this. It's the people that can't get a job anywhere else. They'll join you super early, even when you have nothing, because they have nothing to lose. No one else is offering them jobs, like that fractional CMO. They can't even get a real CMO job. And that's something to remember. So in the early days, you really got to understand you need leverage. It may not be those VPs because you can't recruit or hire them yet. It may have to be, well, what's the framework I can follow? What's the coach that I can get? What's the blueprint that I can follow? Like that's how you get leverage. And as you start to grow, you get more resources, and then maybe you start to hire the right agencies, the right contractors, and then you can start to hire the right leaders, and all those pieces start to come together. And that's my bonus tip number 2. Okay, this video is going on like a long time, but if you're still here, that means you're getting value. So please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. Let's recap. These are the 8 essential elements to building an unstoppable and killer go-to-market strategy that's going to help you accelerate your path to that next stage of growth. Number 1, you want to build out your ideal customer profile. Number 2, you want to build out your value proposition. Number 3, you want to build out your manifesto, which is your strategic narrative and your messaging. Once you have those 3 pieces, you don't know if it's any good. So you want to test it in the market within your initial Broadway show, your V1. You want to look at the data, and if it's working well, then you start to scale it out. You first scale it out with the channel you're already in, and then you figure out what are the other channels that you need to focus on and how do you achieve mastery on that. And you can think about, well, do I do it myself? Do I get leverage? Do I hire an agency? And when you do, then you'll be armed with, you know what works, you know what doesn't work. You'll be able to hand them over like, here's my go-to-market strategy. Here's what I expect from you. Here's the data that I monitor, and I want you to scale it out, and you can hold them accountable. Then you can start to think about, well, what's my methodology? What's my marketing methodology, my sales methodology, my customer success methodology? If you are product-led, then what's my PLG methodology? This is where you think about, well, if I get a lead, how do I convert that to revenue? And how do I keep that customer? And how do I expand that customer? That's the methodologies and playbooks you want to put in place. Then as you start to get more customers, as you start to really move, you got some swagger and you got success stories. So capture those success stories and feed it back into the machine, because that builds trust even faster. And lastly, you want to make sure you're doing the math. You're doing the macro math on what's my revenue target and what does that mean for the number of leads and pipeline that I need. You want to do the micro math for each of these components in my go-to-market machine. What are the conversion rates and what do I need to tweak and what's benchmark? And you want to think through those pieces. The 2 bonus ones that I shared with you is you got to think about pricing. Pricing really lifts all boats. Remember, the company that can spend the most on acquiring a customer will win in the market. So pricing is one of the key levers that will help you get there. And you want to think about leverage. If it's just you starting out and you're owning this founder-led journey, leverage comes from following the right coach, following the right blueprint, following the right framework. As you start to get momentum, then it's about, well, how do I get the great VP of marketing and the VP of sales and the VP of success? And you start to scale it out and get leverage that way. So now you know the 8 essential elements to building a killer and unstoppable go-to-market strategy. Now, what you may not know is, TK, okay, I'm in, I want to do this. However, how do I build a proper ICP? How do I actually develop my value prop so it's like a sentence or 2 and it's differentiated? How do I build out a manifesto so I can really tell the story of the change I'm bringing into this market? I want to get this right. How do I run a Broadway show? What's the first channel that I pick? How do I achieve channel mastery? How do I scale? Who do I hire? Who do I avoid? How do I know if they're any good? If you're looking to figure out, well, what's my marketing methodology? What's my sales methodology? How do I really get this product-led motion going? Or how do I expand revenue and retain these customers? If you're looking at, how do I capture a success story so I can feed it back into the machine? And how do I do that? If you're starting to think about, well, can you help me through the math? What metrics should I look at? What's good? What's bad? If you think about, what's my pricing strategy? If you're starting to wonder, well, how do I get leverage? Well, this is why I created my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. It is an incredible program. It's my 6th year running this program. We've had hundreds of companies go through this program. They have raised seed rounds, seed plus rounds, Series A rounds, Series B rounds. We have even had companies that have won trophies from hitting 1 million ARR, 3 million ARR. And we've had companies upwards of 100 million ARR, adding tens of millions of ARR to their revenue base based on the things that I teach and my coaching inside of the program. It is an incredible program. And the whole point of the program is to help you go from a relatively undefined go-to-market strategy to a well-defined and scalable go-to-market strategy that you can execute on. When you work with me, there's 3 core pillars that we'll focus on. The first one is building out your ideal customer profile. Everyone thinks they have an ICP, but I have done hundreds of ICPs and have a very straightforward process that you can follow to build out a proper ICP. Once you have your ICP, then comes the second pillar. That's your manifesto. Once you have a manifesto, you'll be able to really tell the story of what you're doing in the market and how to differentiate yourself. Your manifesto is your messaging, it's your positioning, it's your strategic narrative. Once you have these 2 pieces, then comes the third pillar, it's your Broadway show. The Broadway show is a consistent set of sales and marketing activities that you can run to bring your manifesto to your ICP on a consistent basis. And I'll teach you how to implement all 3 of these steps. You work with me. There's no one else. There's no ex-pizza boy coach that you get paired up with. You work directly with me. And I've structured the program in a way so that you're supported by me to get your results as quickly as possible. So if you'd like to work together, then just go to tkcater.com/GTM. tkcater.com/GTM. You will get all the details about the program in there. Now, the better the fit, the better the results. I really care about customer success stories and I want my clients to be successful. I want to send you a trophy for your success. So the better fit, the better the results, which is why in order to join, all you have to do is fill a little form and get on a call with us. On the call, we'll figure out where you are, where you want to go, what your targets are, what you're struggling with. And if it sounds like it's a fit, we're off to the races right away. Typically, founders that join the program are able to revamp their go-to-market strategy within 3 weeks of joining, and then I guide you on how to scale from there all the way down to how to scale, how to execute, and how to hire the right people and avoid the wrong people so that you're set up for success. So just go to tkcater.com/GTM. Also, if you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. And honestly, so do we. We put a lot of love into these videos. I also drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. Also, if you have a fellow founder, if you have a team member, if you're part of a Slack group or a WhatsApp group or a Reddit group or a community of other SaaS founders, please share this video with them. By the time this video is done editing, it's probably gonna be like 50 minutes or longer. It's some of my best in-depth content on how I think about go-to-market strategy based on my 20 years of experience and having coached hundreds of founders. So please share this with as many founders as possible. We wanna serve you all at the highest and greatest level. Also, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is gonna be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode or inside the SaaS go-to-market coaching program. Take care, everybody.